Labour says it fully supports renewables, including onshore wind. It does not support the Tory idea of a cap or limit for onshore wind. Our studio guests this week are the environmentalist Tony Juniper, who fought Cambridge for the Green Party at the last election, and Douglas Carswell, who won the by-election in Clacton to become the country's first elected UKIP MP. Welcome to both of you. Tony Juniper, is it in a mess, our renewables industry?
The reluctance that's come through in the political discourse over the last couple of years on renewables, I think, has been pretty unhelpful at three levels. First of all, it's not good environmental policy, given what we know about climate change. It's not good economic policy, considering the way renewables have been a driver of investment into the UK economy, with now 18,000 people employed in wind power alone. And it's also not good politics, in my opinion, when you look around the country and how many deprived communities along the coast in particular are benefiting from offshore wind investments around the Thames Estuary, for example, and around the Suffolk coast. Lots of jobs being created, vibrancy being brought to local communities from installation and all the support services that come with that. So I think people are cottoning on that there is a joined-up agenda here. It's good for the environment, it's good for the economy, and it's good for jobs.
Douglas Carswell, two things. First of all, we heard in that report that it's farming subsidies. Do you agree with the subsidies?
It is about subsidies. We all like the idea of renewable energy. It sounds very attractive, doesn't it? It sounds like something for nothing. But not a single one of those offshore wind turbines would have been built without subsidies. And what is the subsidy? The subsidy means pensioners in places like Clacton paying higher energy bills in order to build those wind turbines. There are cheaper and better ways of generating energy. And incidentally, because it's increased our energy costs as a country, it's making this country economically uncompetitive. It's simply not sustainable.
Aesthetically, I mean, if you walk along the seafront in Clacton, you can't miss them, can you?
Sure. I don't personally have objections to offshore on the grounds of how they look. Some do, but I don't. My objection is the subsidy. I actually quite like the technology, particularly solar technology. I love new technology, but I strongly object to the subsidy because it means poorer families paying money to rich corporations to have a subsidy.
He says take away the subsidies. Truth is, they won't get built, will they?
Well, this is the question as to whether we really call it a subsidy or an investment. And I think government, quite rightly sees investment in infrastructure in the country as part of its role, whether that's roads or ports or hospitals.
But it's never going to pay, Tony. Windmills are never going to generate energy at a cost that will make us competitive. The only way that we're going to cut our carbon emissions to the level that the Greens want is to get rid of all modern industry and technology altogether and go back to the Middle Ages when we had very low carbon emissions.
Total rubbish.
What we need is new technology.
Subsidies go back to the Middle Ages.
No, we want the green industry. We want Britain to be part of the green industrial revolution, which is building around the world. You can't just say that, Douglas, and then just move on.
I can understand that the Green Party prefers the environment to economic growth.
Don't talk rubbish, Douglas. Absolute rubbish.
Let him just ask you that one question, and then we will move on.
The green industrial revolution that's coming down the track. It's being embraced by China. It's being embraced by India. Here's his point about the Greens wishing to go back to some medieval economy which is against modern technologies and economic development. Absolutely the opposite. We want to embrace the kind of economy which is coming down the track fast.
I can understand the Greens taking this position, but for the mainstream parties in Westminster to all collude to keep these renewable targets when it's obvious that they cannot be sustained, only UKIP is going to change this. Only UKIP will allow us to have cheaper energy.
Right. OK, we'll move on. One of the big issues in the Clacton by-election was a serious shortage of regular GPs, forcing patients to see locum doctors instead. At the time, the area around Clacton had 50% more vacancies than the rest of Essex. The day after the by-election, this is what Mr Carswell said he would do.
The problem is you can't recruit what's not there. We need officials in London and we need ministers in London to address the chronic shortage of GPs. That doesn't mean taking the easy option of recruiting from overseas, although overseas doctors do play a crucial role, and that's a good thing. That's exactly what we need. We also need to train people in this country. Why are so few medical students wanting to be GPs? Why are so many medical students who qualify as doctors not wanting to work in general practice?
But those that do qualify don't want to come here.
I don't think that's true.
Well, we've seen in other parts of the region with the shortage of doctors is much lower here.
To be fair, there's a shortage throughout the country. It's a little bit like a Swiss cheese. There are sort of gaps in provision. There are little holes all over the place. There are one or two holes in provision here, but it's a problem throughout the region, throughout the country. I You talked about what I could do as an MP. One of the first things I'm going to be doing as a new Member of Parliament, I'm going to be doing some research using the House of Commons Library to work out which districts throughout the country have similar problems to the problems we have, and then I'm going to be contacting those MPs regardless of what colour rosette they wear, and seeing if we can get a group of MPs who recognise that we need more GPs to collaboratively put pressure on the Health Minister.
Well, let's see if anything has changed. Dr. John Gill is from the Crusader surgery in Clacton, which is one of the surgeries where there is an acute shortage. There is. Is it still as bad as it was?
There is still as bad. If anything, it's slightly worse.
So why is that?
I mean, I think honestly that it started years ago, and training a GP takes about 10 years. So
when Mr. Carswell said he was going to sort it out, did you think that there was a chance he could?
No, I was always a little bit sceptical, to be honest, that any politician could do that.
Yeah.
May I? There are a number of things that I think I have achieved. For example, there is now the Golden Hello scheme. That is now in place, and it means that if you're a GP and you come and work in our area for 2 years, you get a £10,000 bonus.
Okay.
That is beginning to attract
Try
people.
That. Has that attracted anybody to come to your surgery?
I don't actually need to recruit anyone to my surgery, but in the surgeries where there are acute shortages, that hasn't worked.
Can I move on to the next point?
Kirby Cross surgery was closed. It is now reopened.
Move on to the next point.
There is now new management at 2 surgeries where there was a shortage of doctors.
The other things that you've achieved?
Reopening a satellite surgery that had shut is one of them. Making sure the Caradoc surgery is put under new management is a third thing that I think I can claim to have done. We have seen progress, but the fundamental problem, and I'm sure Dr. Gill will agree with this, is that there simply aren't enough GPs in the country.
Let me ask him then. Just not enough GPs in the country?
Just not enough GPs.
So why aren't we training more?
Well, this is a question I put to Jeremy Hunt and the health team on the floor of the House of Commons on Monday. They claim that they are. They talked about, I think, spending a sum of about £10 million, but I think it's going to require far more investment. If I may say, I think one of the problems is that tuition fees create an incentive for people who've just qualified as young doctors to actually, paradoxically, go and work elsewhere, because if they go and work elsewhere, they don't have to pay the money back.
In that clip we just heard from you, you said you were going to talk to other MPs that had a similar problem. Have you spoken to anyone?
I have, and the problem is...
Who have you spoken to?
Bernard Jenkin, the neighbouring MP in Tendring. He faces very similar problems. In fact, I went and visited a surgery, Great Bentley, just across the border. They're a very well-run surgery, and they do have enough doctors, but many of the pressures that GPs face in Clacton are common to MPs throughout East Anglia.
But you did promise you would have this group of MPs that you would get together and you would sort this out.
In fairness, I think
Bernard Jenkin is one.
No, I've spoken to a large number of MPs on this issue. I've kept my word. There is now a specific scheme in place to recruit more GPs. There wasn't 6 months ago. There is now new management and the reopening of a GP surgery. I think to suggest that I've not done anything is simply not fair.
Dr. Gill says it hasn't made any difference.
Well, he's just admitted
that his
surgery has enough. I can give you specific chapter and verse on the new management structure at the Caradoc surgery in Frinton,
Dr. Gill,
the Green Elm surgery in Jaywood, and the reopening of Kirby Cross surgery. Thank you.
I mean, it is true, these surgeries have been taken over by the local commissioning group.
Since the by-election.
ACE, they're called, which is a not-for-profit company, and they are running a number of GP surgeries. They are paying over the odds for salaried doctors to take
locums,
the place.
Aren't they? Don't they have a lot of locums working there?
No, actually, the reopened surgery that has reopened since the by-election in Kirby Cross has full-time doctors who are doing a great job. And in fact, I spent time at the surgery last week,
Mr. Juniper,
and they have more people applying to work there.
What do you make of all of this?
Well, I think it's right that we have to have a stronger pipeline of training as part of a wider health policy, which, as the Greens would say, should be funded publicly. It should be free at the point of access. All these things, I think, are clear from our point of view. But one thing I would raise with Douglas is what appears to be a contradiction in the wider UKIP policy, considering how about a third, if I understand it, of GPs in this country are from overseas.
That's why we want an Australian points-based system, so we can recruit people with the skills we need.
So you want to have Australian doctors?
We want an Australian points-based system to allow us to attract the best people and the brightest people to come to this country. It's entirely consistent.
That fits with your wider immigration policies, does it? Okay. Well, we'll be interesting to see some of the details how those numbers pan out.
I mean, these are all important issues. I do think that the amount of work that GPs have been given has increased over the last few years, and the amount of money they've been given has been less in terms of the budget.
We'll move on again.
I think on this day, because he always makes quite a lot of noise opposite, it is worth saying happy birthday to the Shadow Chancellor. And part of the aim of this, when he has plenty of time after the election, he'll be able to get to see Norwich City in just 90 minutes.
Do you get together with all of these MPs who do the Norwich in 90 thing, the better train service, or do you work on your own now that you're in your own party?
No, I do work with a number of MPs, including Chloe Smith and Priti Patel. Simply because I'm in a different party, I put the local area and the local needs ahead of party politics. I work very closely with them, correct.
And are you seeing on the doorstep that the Lib Dems, like Nick Clegg says there, that they are stronger?
I've not really seen many Lib Dems on the doorstep. You must forgive me. I'll tell you when I find them.
And how's UKIP doing on the doorstep? Are you writing any of the manifesto?
I'm helping in my own small way, but we just had a poll out in South Thanet, and we're 11
When you
points
say
ahead.
you're helping in your own small way, what does that mean? Are you writing some of the manifesto?
I'm contributing, but we're a big party with lots of people with lots of ideas.
And do you think your leader will read it or take any notice of it when you've written it?
Absolutely, of course he will.
Doctor, thank you for being with us, and thank you.